2 years. That is how long I loved her. 2 years of giving everything I had, believing we were building something beautiful and real together. But at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday night, I woke up to an empty bed and a cold, heavy silence filling our apartment. When I called just to ask where she was, she screamed that I was too clingy. One simple question born from worry. That is all it took for everything to crumble. What I did next changed my life forever. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you have ever had someone make you feel guilty for simply caring about them, hit that like button right now. And make sure you subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Because what happened 3 years later, when she finally tracked me down that moment, taught me everything I thought I knew about closure self-worth and what it truly means to walk away with dignity. My name is Richard, and when all of this happened, I was 27 years old working at a mid-sized marketing firm in Columbus, Ohio. I had built a stable life for myself. Nothing extravagant, but it was mine. A small one-bedroom apartment on the third floor of a quiet building, a reliable car that got me where I needed to go, and a job that paid the bills with a little left over for savings. I had been on my own since I was 19, putting myself through college while working part-time jobs that left me exhausted but determined. Independence was something I earned, and I wore it like armor. My days followed a comfortable rhythm. Wake up at 6:30, hit the gym before work, spend 8 or 9 hours at the office crafting campaigns and analyzing data, then come home to cook dinner and unwind. It was predictable, maybe even boring to some people, but I liked the stability. After growing up in a household where chaos was the norm, I craved peace more than excitement. I met Megan at a birthday party for one of my coworkers. It was a Saturday evening in early spring, and I almost did not go. Parties were never really my thing, but something told me to show up even if just for an hour. She was standing by the drink table when I walked in, laughing at something someone had said, and I remember thinking that her energy was magnetic. She had this way of commanding attention without trying, like the whole room naturally gravitated toward her. We started talking, and the conversation flowed easier than I expected. She was witty, quick with her words, and had opinions about everything from politics to pizza toppings. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers, and by the following weekend, we were on our first date at a little Italian restaurant downtown. Those first few months were everything I had hoped love would feel like. We spent weekends exploring hiking trails outside the city, cooking elaborate meals together that sometimes turned out terrible but always ended in laughter, and taking spontaneous road trips to nowhere in particular. She would leave little notes in my jacket pockets for me to find at work. I would surprise her with flowers just because it was Tuesday. We talked about the future like it was a certainty, like we had already figured out the hard parts, and everything else was just details. After 6 months of dating, Megan suggested we move in together. It made sense. She was spending most nights at my place anyway, and combining our expenses would let us save for bigger things down the road. I remember helping her carry boxes up the stairs to our apartment, feeling like I was building something permanent for the first time in my life. This was it, I thought. This was the person I would grow old with. But somewhere around the 1-year mark, things started to shift in ways I could not quite name. It was subtle at first. Megan began taking phone calls in the other room, closing the door behind her and speaking in hushed tones. When I asked who she was talking to, she would wave her hand dismissively and say it was just work stuff, nothing interesting. I believed her because I had no reason not to. Then came the late nights at the office. Once or twice a week became 3 or 4 times. She would come home after 10, sometimes 11, smelling faintly of perfume that was not the one she usually wore. When I mentioned it, she laughed and said her coworker must have hugged her or something. I filed it away in the back of my mind, not wanting to be the paranoid boyfriend who questioned everything. Her phone became a fortress. She changed her passcode regularly and always kept the screen facing down when she set it on the table. One evening while she was in the shower, a notification lit up her screen. A text from someone named Derek with a heart emoji. Just a heart, nothing else. My stomach tightened, but I convinced myself it meant nothing. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was a joke. I did not ask because I was afraid of what the answer might be. I told myself I was overthinking. I reminded myself that trust was the foundation of any relationship, and if I started questioning every little thing, I would become the problem. So I pushed down the unease and focused on being a good partner. I planned date nights, bought her favorite snacks, gave her space when she said she needed it. I thought if I just loved her enough, whatever was happening would work itself out. Looking back, I was not being trusting. I was being willfully blind. The night that changed everything started like any other Tuesday. We had dinner together, watched an episode of a show we were binging, and went to bed around 11 a.m. Megan seemed distant, scrolling through her phone more than usual, but I chalked it up to a long day at work. I kissed her goodnight, told her I loved her, and fell asleep with my arm draped over her waist. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. to an empty bed. At first I thought maybe she had gotten up to use the bathroom or grab a glass of water. But after a few minutes of lying there in the darkness, I realized the apartment was completely silent. No water running, no footsteps, no quiet hum of the refrigerator door opening and closing. I sat up and called her name. Nothing. I checked every room. The bathroom was empty. The kitchen untouched, her shoes and purse missing from their usual spot by the door. My heart started beating faster, not from anger but from genuine worry. It was nearly 3 in the morning. Where could she possibly be? I grabbed my phone and called her. It rang 5 times before going to voicemail. I called again. Same result. I sent a text asking if she was okay if something had happened. The minutes dragged by like hours. I paced the living room running through worst-case scenarios in my head. Maybe there was a family emergency. Maybe her car broke down somewhere. Maybe she was hurt. At 3:15, my phone finally buzzed with an incoming call. Her name on the screen brought a wave of relief that lasted exactly 2 seconds. When I answered, I could hear noise in the background. Music, muffled voices, the unmistakable sounds of a bar or club. My relief curdled into confusion. "Megan, where are you? I woke up and you were gone. I have been worried sick." What came next hit me like a punch to the chest. "Oh my God, Richard, you are so clingy," she screamed into the phone. Her voice was sharp, annoyed like I was a nuisance she could not shake. "Can you give me some space? I cannot breathe with you constantly checking on me. This is exactly why I need time away from you. You suffocate me." Before I could respond, the line went dead. She had hung up on me. I stood there in the middle of our living room phone, still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, not yet. Just from the shock of hearing the person I loved speak to me like I was nothing. Like my concern for her safety was a character flaw instead of a basic expression of care. I sat down on the couch and stared at the black screen of my phone for a long time. The apartment felt foreign suddenly, like I was seeing it for the first time. All our photos on the walls, the blanket we bought together on a trip to Vermont, the half-finished puzzle on the coffee table we kept saying we would complete. Evidence of a life I thought was real. I did not sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop and did something I had been avoiding for months. Megan and I had set up a shared iCloud account early in our relationship, mostly to share photos and keep our calendars synced. I had never thought to check her location history before because I trusted her, but trust had limits, and mine had just been shattered. The map showed a pattern I did not want to see. Over the past 4 months, the same address appeared again and again, sometimes late at night, sometimes for entire afternoons when she said she was working. An apartment complex downtown about 20 minutes from where we lived. I Googled the address, cross-referenced it with social media. It did not take long to find what I was looking for. The apartment belonged to a man named Derek. I clicked through his public posts and found pictures of him at bars at the gym, and in one photo from 3 weeks ago, a woman with her back to the camera sitting across from him at a restaurant. She was wearing the same blue dress Megan had worn the night she said she was having dinner with her sister. Everything clicked into place with a sickening clarity. The late nights, the phone calls, the perfume, the heart emoji. 4 months. She had been lying to me for 4 months, and I had been too desperate to believe in us to see what was right in front of my face. I sat in the darkness of our apartment until the sky started to lighten outside the window. Megan still had not come home. Part of me wanted to wait for her to confront her, to demand answers, and watch her try to explain her way out of this. But another part of me, the part that had learned to survive by trusting my instincts, knew that confrontation would only give her power. She would cry, apologize, promise to change, and I would be tempted to believe her because that is what I had always done. Not this time. I made a decision in those early morning hours that would define the next chapter of my life. I was going to leave. Not with drama, not with a screaming match, not with tears and accusations. I was going to disappear, and she would wake up to find me gone without a trace. I moved quietly through the apartment, pulling out my old duffel bag from the closet. I packed only what I needed: clothes, toiletries, my laptop, a few important documents. I left behind everything we had accumulated together, all the material evidence of 2 years that now felt like a lie. I wrote a single note and left it on the kitchen counter. "I hope you find what you were looking for. Goodbye." Then I blocked her number on my phone. I logged out of all our shared accounts and deleted my social media profiles. By 5:30 in the morning, I was in my car pulling out of the parking lot and heading west on the highway. Megan still was not home. I did not wait to see if she would be. I drove for 14 hours straight, stopping only for gas and coffee. My destination was Denver, Colorado, where my college roommate Tyler had moved a few years back. We had kept in touch loosely the way old friends do, but I knew he would help me if I showed up needing a place to crash. The drive was a blur of highway lines and passing trucks. I listened to podcasts and music to keep my mind from spiraling, but every so often the silence would creep back in and I would replay that phone call in my head. "You are so clingy. You suffocate me." Those words echoed like a curse I could not shake. Tyler welcomed me without questions. He took one look at my face when I showed up at his door and simply stepped aside to let me in. "Guest room is down the hall," he said. "We can talk when you are ready." Those first few weeks in Colorado were the hardest of my life. I slept poorly, ate sporadically, and spent hours staring at walls wondering if I had made the right choice. Part of me kept expecting Megan to call to somehow find me and beg me to come back. I had changed my phone number, but the irrational part of my brain still jumped every time Tyler's phone rang. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Megan had indeed tried to find me. She posted on social media asking if anyone knew where I was. She called my old workplace only to be told I had resigned. She even reached out to family members I had not spoken to in years. But I'd covered my tracks well, and eventually the posts stopped appearing. 3 months after I arrived in Denver, I landed a job at a marketing agency downtown. The work was similar to what I had done in Ohio, but the environment was different. Fresher, somehow full of people who did not know my history or my heartbreak. I could be whoever I wanted to be. I threw myself into rebuilding. I rented a small studio apartment with a view of the mountains in the distance. I joined a gym and started hiking on weekends, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for. I read books, took cooking classes, and slowly started to remember who I was outside of a relationship. My coworker Marcus became an unexpected friend. He was a few years older, divorced, and understood the particular kind of grief that comes from a relationship ending badly. We would grab beers after work and talk about everything except our pasts. He taught me that healing was not about forgetting what happened, but about making peace with the fact that it did. 1 year turned into 2. I got promoted, then promoted again. My confidence grew not just professionally, but personally. I started to believe that I deserved good things, that what happened with Megan was not a reflection of my worth, but of her inability to appreciate what she had. Then I met Hannah. It was at a networking event, one of those industry mixers where everyone exchanges business cards and makes small talk over mediocre appetizers. Hannah was standing near the window looking like she would rather be anywhere else, and I felt an immediate kinship with her obvious discomfort. We started talking and did not stop until the event ended. She was different from Megan in every way that mattered. Thoughtful, introspective, genuinely interested in the people around her rather than just the impression she made on them. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, her words carried weight. We took things slow. Dinners that turned into long walks, weekend hikes that turned into entire days spent together, phone calls that lasted until one of us fell asleep mid-sentence. I told her about Megan eventually, about the betrayal and the disappearing act, and she did not flinch. She just held my hand and said, "I'm glad you trusted yourself enough to leave." After a year of dating, Hannah moved in with me. For the first time since that terrible night in Ohio, I felt like I had come home. Then, 3 years after I'd walked out of my old life, Megan found me. I was at my desk on a Wednesday afternoon when an email appeared in my inbox from an address I did not recognize. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Richard, please read this. It is Megan." The email was long, rambling, full of apologies and explanations. She said she had been searching for me since the day I left. She found me through my LinkedIn profile, which I had created for work and foolishly made partially public. She said she needed to see me just once to explain everything and apologize in person. She said she had changed. I read that email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went home to Hannah. I told Hannah everything. I showed her the email, watched her read it, and waited for her reaction. She was quiet for a moment, then looked up at me with steady eyes. "Do you want to see her?" she asked. No jealousy, no accusations. Just a simple question. I thought about it honestly. Part of me was curious, I could not deny that. But it was not the curiosity of wanting her back. It was the curiosity of wanting to understand, to see who she had become, to close a chapter that had been left unfinished for 3 years. "I think I need to," I said. "Not for her, for me." Hannah nodded. "Then go. I trust you." I emailed Megan back and agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown the following Saturday. Public, neutral, safe. I did not want drama, just closure. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with her hands wrapped around a cup she was not drinking from. She looked different, thinner, older somehow, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. The confident energy I remembered was gone, replaced by something fragile. When she saw me, tears immediately welled up in her eyes. I sat down across from her and waited. The story came out in fragments. Derek had left her 6 months after I disappeared, and she found out he had been seeing multiple women the entire time they were together. Poetic justice maybe, but it did not bring me any satisfaction. She lost her job after that, struggled to pay rent, and eventually had to move back in with her parents in her hometown. I spent 3 years hating myself, she said, her voice cracking. Every day I thought about what I did to you, how I treated you that night. You asked one question because you cared about me and I made you feel like a criminal for it. I was at his apartment that night, Richard. I was with Derek while you were home worried about me. She reached across the table like she wanted to take my hand, but I kept mine in my lap. I know sorry does not fix anything, she continued, but I am so sorry. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was selfish and stupid and did not know what I had until it was gone. I have been in therapy for 2 years trying to understand why I sabotaged us. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I have changed. And if there is any chance at all that we could try again. She trailed off, hope flickering in her eyes like a candle in a storm. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. 3 years ago, this moment would have broken me. I would have wanted her back, would have believed her. Promises would have let her tears wash away the evidence of her betrayal. But I was not that person anymore. Megan, I said quietly, I forgive you. Her face lit up, and for a second I saw a flash of the woman I used to love. I forgive you, I repeated, but not for you, for myself. I've been carrying the weight of what you did for too long, and I am ready to let it go. But letting go does not mean going back. The light in her eyes dimmed. I have a life now, I continued. A good one. I have a career, I am proud of friends who care about me, and a woman who loves me in a way you never could. She does not make me feel guilty for caring. She does not disappear at 3 in the morning and call me clingy for wondering where she is. She respects me and I respect her. Megan's tears were falling freely now. Richard, please. That night you screamed at me for asking where you were. You made me feel like something was wrong with me for loving you. But caring is not clingy, Megan. Caring is what love looks like. And you taught me that I deserve someone who understands the difference. I stood up from the table. There was nothing left to say. I hope you find peace, I said. I really do, but that peace cannot include me. Goodbye, Megan. I left money on the table for both our drinks and walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. The autumn air hit my face cool and clean, and I felt lighter than I had in years. When I got home, Hannah was curled up on the couch with a book. She looked up when I walked in, searching my face for clues. How did it go? She asked. I sat down next to her and pulled her close. It went exactly how it needed to. She rested her head on my shoulder and we sat there in comfortable silence. Outside, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought losing Megan meant losing everything. But sometimes the things that feel like endings are really just beginnings in disguise. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away without a word and trust that you deserve better. And sometimes, if you are patient enough and brave enough, better finds you in ways you never expected. If you have ever been made to feel like your love was too much, if someone ever called you clingy for simply caring about them, I want you to know something. The problem was never your love. It was their inability to receive it. The right person will never make you feel guilty for having a big heart. The right person will hold that heart gently and be grateful that you trusted them with it. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who made you feel like your love was a burden? How did you find the strength to choose yourself? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next story. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you carry something valuable away from this, whether it is the courage to walk away from what hurts you or the reminder that healing is possible even when it feels impossible. Take care of yourself. You deserve a love that feels like home.